Hello folks. So in this video I wanted to show you some stuff that I've been noticing on NGINX, and I thought this will be a general chaos or mania about monitoring observability and NGINX. So specifically I'll be looking at NGINX in this one. I'll be doing separate videos on database mania and monitoring and observability mania. So recently, I've been trying to actually get some metrics around NGINX telemetry data, basically to understand how the NGINX is working and how well it is doing. So before we get started, let me see if I can actually start off a meeting. Okay, so now we can actually go ahead and get started. So I'll actually put my video like this. Okay, and yep, I think that should be fine. Cool. So let me get started off by saying what I checked out about NGINX, right? So NGINX, so we are using Prometheus. So we wanted to see if there's a NGINX Prometheus exporter, and there is of course one. So this is the official Prometheus exporter for NGINX by the NGINX community itself. I think it's by the company itself and not exactly the community, probably because the exporter provides metrics for NGINX and NGINX Plus, which is actually a commercial product by NGINX. And I think NGINX recently got acquired by a company called F5. So if you go to nginx.com, it goes to F5 and tells that NGINX is actually a product of F5 now. So they have these products, and I think you can actually see. I think NGINX Plus is not mentioned here really, but if you simply click on this, I think you should go to F5. So yeah, I mean it says F5 NGINX Plus, so you can actually see it, right? And you can see the document. So just a moment. So now this is the exporter for the NGINX, open source and NGINX Plus. So you can actually read through this. So it says there's a note about ingress controller, the NGINX ingress controller. So if you want to use the Prometheus exporter for that, then you can just check this out, check this doc and all that. So what is the prerequisite for this? So the prerequisite for this is you need to have, of course, NGINX running. So I have one NGINX running, so you can actually see, NGINX. So I have an NGINX running here. You can actually see the master process NGINX, and then the worker process, and NGINX. So if you see the help, it's -h. So if you see the help, the configuration file it uses by default is this one. So let's open this up. So code. So here you can actually see that this is the configuration file that we have, and actually the default is mentioned close by itself. This is the default, so you can actually see the default and this one. So just a moment. So here you can actually see that both of these are the same, except a few things which I changed recently, which is this. But other than that, this is the default that it came with, and this is NGINX version 1.29. Okay, so if you want to know more details, you can actually put -V, and it will give you, it will show you the version, and it will also give you the configure options, then exit. So in configure options, you can actually see that there is something called status, stub_status module. So this is a module, http_stub_status module. So this is the module that we've been using here. Just a moment. Oh no, this is the default. This is the module that we've been using here to get the status, which is the NGINX metrics, at this endpoint, which is slash basic status, and you just say stub status. So you can actually see this in the stub status module, which is http underscore stub underscore status underscore module, and it says NGINX. So it's basically, this is the module name, I think, fully. So you can actually see the example configuration as this. This is what I just copy pasted, basic status, stub status. So this one, and you will get a web page or a response which gives this when you hit basic status. And this is the information around the directive. So just says stub status, and you can use it in server and in location and all. So I used it in location under and saying that it's basic status. In this it should come up. And so in versions prior to this, directive syntax required an arbitrary argument. For example, stub underscore status and then space on or something, right? And it says the following information, status information is provided. So active connections, the current number of active client connections, including waiting connections, and then accepts. So this one, sir, and then accepts. So the total number of accepted client connections, and then handled, the total number of handled connections. Generally, the parameter value is the same as accepts unless some resource limits have been reached. For example, the worker connection limit, right? In which case it will accept, but it will not get handled, I guess. So, and then requests, the total number of client requests. And then so connections, I think, is different. Each connection, you can have one connection but many requests, I'm guessing, so something to check out. And then reading the current number of connections where NGINX is reading the request header, the current number of connections where NGINX is writing the response back to the client. That's when you say writing, how many writing. So here you can actually see accepts is this many, handled is this many, request is this many, reading is 6, writing is 179, so writing the response. There's something called waiting, which is the current number of idle client connections waiting for a request. So the connections are there, but there's no request coming up in them. So this module supports the following embedded variables. So connections active, same as active, connections value, connections reading, writing, waiting. So there's nothing for accepts, handled, and accepts, handled, and requests, I think. Yeah. So basically there are totally 7 values, only for 4 values there are embedded variables. So now if I actually hit this endpoint, so basically it's, I think, port 8080. Let me see, yeah, it is 8080. So since 80 itself is a registered port, I think by default they made it 8080. So if you run it, you can actually see NGINX welcome, and then you can actually say basic underscore status, and you'll get this. So here you can actually see after zooming in. So if I zoom out, it will become like this. After zooming in, you can actually see that this is the thing. So you can zoom out more, and yeah, so there is Chrome's zooming, and then I'm zooming by just using my trackpad. So active connections is 2, and then server, so accepts is 21, handled is 21, requests, basically there are 21 connections accepted and handled, but then requests, in those 21 connections we have sent 51 requests, and writing 1, waiting 1, which is I think this specific one. So you can actually see more requests coming up, right? If you open up a new window also, I think it will just say extra requests, right? So this is 55. This was the previous one. Next it will be 56, 57. So here you can actually see extra connection handle came. So 61, 62, 63, 64, 71. Here I can just do 72. So now if I actually open up let's say curl, so let's just do this curl localhost 8080. So you can actually see the whole response 200, okay, it says server, NGINX and all that. And here if I say basic underscore status, so it says this, it's a plain text content and it says this. So you can actually see 79 requests and 25 accepts and 25 handle. So let's actually go ahead and try more. It says 26, 27. So basically every curl is creating a new connection and it's giving also a new request in that connection, right? So that is pretty cool. And the next thing to note is basically this is the only thing that you'll get in this stub status, and this is what is being used to provide the Prometheus metrics using this Prometheus exporter. So you basically have to run this exporter and it will pick up all these metrics, 7 metrics, and then provide it as Prometheus metrics in the Prometheus format, or even I think Open Telemetry format might also be supported, I think. So let me see, Open Telemetry. Yeah, so there is something called telemetry path, but anyways, that is only for I think the endpoint of the exporter. Anyways, so now if you actually go ahead and look at so the prerequisites, I think we have that, and then running the exporter in a Docker container, and then running the exporter binary. So you just have a binary and then you say scrape this URL and you're done, right? So finally, so you have the usage and the exported metrics. So these are some of the common metrics that are exported, which is the build information, which is for the exporter itself, the exporter build information, branch, Golang architecture, Golang OS, Golang version with which it was actually built and all, and then revision, basically the commit or something, and then the tags, and then the version, and then the total number of scrapes by HTTP status code. So the HTTP status code, so, and then the current number of scrapes being served, right? So, and then Go runtime metrics, and then there is this one metric for saying if it's up or not, which is a 0 or 1. 1 means it's successful scrape, 0 means it's scrape failed. And then there is stub status metrics. So you can actually see this. So interestingly, this goes to the NGINX org web page where they refer to the modules which give these metrics. So there are metrics for NGINX Plus, and then there are metrics for NGINX open source. For example, NGINX up versus NGINX Plus up. And then here, when you click connections, you can actually see this metric for NGINX Plus comes from the HTTP API module, which is actually present, I think, only in NGINX Plus, right? Let me see, license and usage reporting status. Yeah, I'm not able to find. Okay, let me see if I can actually find this in this NGINX -b-i API. Nothing comes up. Let me do a PB copy and okay. Just a moment. Let me copy this up and then see if there is any such API module that they talk about. API module, no. HTTP, yeah, it's there. Client body temp, HTTP proxy temp, HTTP fast CGI, HTTP universal web server gateway interface, I think so. Other stuff is there, but HTTP log path is CGI, addition module, auth request module, dev, auth, and then FLV. So a lot of these, but not the HTTP API module, which is part of NGINX Plus, I believe. So we'll come there. We'll come to that part. So here you can actually see the 7 metrics: 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which is the accepted, right, or active connections. Let's start with that. Active connections, and then accepted connections, and then handled connections, and then the requests, total number of requests, HTTP requests, and then reading, writing, waiting. So reading is reading from the request header, writing is writing the response, and waiting is just idle client connections waiting for requests, right? And For NGINX Plus, you can actually see similar stuff, right? And then you'll also notice some dropped client connections and all, and then total number of HTTP requests, current HTTP requests, and then SSL related stuff. And then something about HTTP server zones. I need to check what that is. That's an interesting thing. Let me try to, yep. So it is processing the number of client requests that are currently being processed, requests, responses, okay, and basically this is the processing, client requests, responses sent to clients, total responses sent to clients by code, response code and all that based thing, discarded. So a lot of these, and then handshake related, SL related stuff. And then stream server zones, so something about, let me see, currently being processed, total connections. I'm wondering if this is related to any HTTP stream and stuff that are being processed. Weirdly, it says the same thing as the previous one, so I'm just wondering what's the difference here. So it is weird. The next thing is HTTP upstreams. So it gives upstreams like backend related data, the upstream related data. For example, state, the server state, and the current state basically, and then the active connections, and then the limit connections, which corresponds to the max connections parameter, and then server requests, responses, and then response codes, bytes sent to this server, bytes received to this server, and all that. And then server fails, server unavailable, header time, so much things, right? The stream upstreams are also there apart from just HTTP upstreams. I think these are basically HTTP2 streams. So stream, zone sync, and then location zones, and then resolver. I think this is for DNS resolution, and then rate limiting, and then connections limiting, and then stream connections limiting, and then cache, and then worker, and that's it, right? So these are all provided in the NGINX Prometheus exporter, which is the official one. You can also see that there are other softwares around this. For example, there are people asking around how do you all use NGINX exporter, but the other thing is, for example, enable Prometheus exporter. So okay, so let's look at this, right? I mean, these are same things, like Docker image of the same thing and all that. Let me just say NGINX Prometheus metrics, and let's look at what and all is available, and we can actually say NGINX monitoring maybe. So there is one thing over here that I noticed. So this is an exploration that I did. I'll show you my history. So there is this thing called OpenResty, which is actually a way to customize your NGINX using Lua code. So they provide a NGINX Lua module where you can basically, using that module, you can write Lua code to customize your NGINX. So you have the NGINX, which is written in C, and then you have NGINX Lua, which is written in C and Lua, I think, and then you have Lua modules. So which the NGINX-Lua bridges between the NGINX and the Lua modules, I think. So that's how it is. This one is written using Lua and Golang and all, and it's a Prometheus metric library for NGINX written in Lua. So it's basically a library, not exactly the metrics itself. So it's a Lua library that can be used with NGINX to keep track of metrics and expose them on a separate web page to be pulled by Prometheus. So for this, you need NGINX_Lua module, or you can either use a Lua enabled NGINX based server like OpenResty, right, or a regular NGINX server with the module enabled. For example, on Debian 10 you can simply install live NGINX mod HTTP Lua, but please read the known issues if you use a later Debian version. So the library file is this. It needs to be available in the Lua path. If this is the only Lua library you use, you can just point the Lua package path to the directory with this git repo checked out, right? So with that, you can actually just quickly get started, and for example, to track request latency broken down by server name and request count broken down by server name. So request latency and request count broken down by server name and status, add the following to the HTTP section of NGINX conf. So you say Lua shared a dictionary Prometheus matrix 10 MB, and then path to Nginx Lua Prometheus question mark dot Lua. Initialize worker by Lua block, and then Prometheus is equal to require Prometheus init Prometheus matrix. And then you say matrix request, so Prometheus counter, Prometheus histogram, Prometheus gauge. So basically a counter metric, histogram metric, and then gauge metric, each one with its own thing. So Nginx HTTP requests total for counters, histogram the duration seconds, and then gauge for HTTP connections. And then it gives the different labels: status, host, and state. Log by Lua block, so metric request increment 1, server name and status, and then observe to number Nginx variable request time, and then with server name. So what this does, it configures a chat dictionary for your metrics called Prometheus underscore metrics with a 10 MB size limit. Registers a counter called Nginx HTTP requests total with two labels here, host and status. Registers a histogram and also registers a gauge called Nginx HTTP requests duration seconds with a one label, Nginx HTTP connections with one label state. On each HTTP request measures its latency, recording it in the histogram, and increments the counter, setting current server name as the host label, and HTTP status code in the status level. So with this, you can actually see this. Last step is to configure a separate server that will expose the metrics. Please make sure to only make it reachable from your Prometheus server. So basically, this should not be accessible by external services, or else you'll get the data. So listen, allow only this IP or something, some internal thing, deny all, and then metrics will be available at this your Nginx 9145 listen. And note that the gauge metric in this example contains values obtained from the Nginx global state. So they get set immediately before metrics are returned to the client. So there is the API reference, Prometheus counter, init, and all the initialize and all that, Prometheus gauge, Prometheus histogram, Prometheus collect, Prometheus metric data, and more, right? So counter delete, counter reset, and all that. Gauge set, gauge increment, gauge delete, and then gauge reset, histogram observe, and all that. Histogram reset, built-in caveats, and then built-in metrics, caveats, usage, and stream module. So I think this is for HTTP 2. I'm not sure. No. So it says HTTP 1.1. Okay, and then known issues and stuff. Right, so this is your Nginx Lua thing, so where you use OpenResty or Nginx Lua module, and use that to actually run your exporter, which actually does some custom stuff internally and then provides the metrics. So what else is out there? So if you want to monitor your Nginx, you can actually do some extra stuff. For example, this is something I mentioned yes now. The other thing to do is you can actually just say monitor Nginx, and you'll actually notice that there are monitoring tools available out there. For example, Nginx Plus has this monitoring thing, configuring, logging, live activity monitoring, and all. And then you'll actually notice this thing called NGINX Amplify, which is used to monitor Nginx, right? So Amplify. So here, if you open it up, you'll actually notice that Amplify is nothing but a SaaS service by Nginx. So they make monitoring easy for Nginx. So out of the box graphs, static analyzer for Nginx configuration, custom dashboards. So SLA, which is service level agreement overview, automated alerts, multi-user, monitor Nginx, Linux, PHP, FPM, and MySQL, C connections, requests, HTTP status, response time, traffic, and more. So build your own graphs to see metrics per visual host, HTTP status and URI, understand your application service level agreement, learn to configure Nginx. So this is what they say, and to set it up, you actually need to run an agent. So you can actually go to the introduction and you'll actually notice that this is a SaaS component. So it offers in-depth monitoring for Nginx based web applications. It simplifies the process of analyzing and resolving issues related to performance and scalability. With Nginx Amplify, you can spot performance issues, server overloads, and possible distributed denial of service attacks easily. Receive intelligent advice to boost Nginx performance, right? And then get alerts about issues in your application infrastructure. Plan for your web applications performance and capacity needs. Monitor all systems that run Nginx. So the main components here are basically the Nginx Amplify agent. So this is a Python application. It runs on the systems you are monitoring where your Nginx applications are running. It communicates securely with the SaaS backend used using SSL/TLS, which is secure sockets layer / transport layer security. Nginx Amplify agent always initiates the traffic, so there's no like inbound traffic, only outbound traffic. So you don't have to allow any firewall rules for inbound traffic, but outbound traffic you have to allow. And Nginx Amplify web interface, it's compatible with all major browsers. This interface is only accessible through TLS or SSL. Nginx Amplify backend SaaS implementation. This core system component handles metrics collection, data storage, and analytics, and the core API. It's implemented as a SaaS, so you have to pay for it, of course. And let's actually go to the using Amplify agent and the user interface, the metrics and data, right? So if you look at using this, you'll actually notice that agent overview. So you just need to currently monitor and collect performance metrics for operating system, which is the system where your thing is running. Nginx and Nginx Plus, PHP, FPM, and then MySQL. So Amplify agent identifies an Nginx instance as any running Nginx master process with either a unique binary or a binary path or a unique configuration. So there's no need to manually add or configure anything in the web interface after installing Amplify agent. The agent is started, the metrics and metadata are automatically reported to the Amplify backend and visualized in the web interface. Cool. So it's a compact application written in Python, it seems. Its role is to collect various metrics and metadata and send them securely to the backend for storage and visualization. So you need to install Nginx Amplify agent on all hosts you want to monitor. Just a moment. Hello folks, so I'm back. So here these people are actually saying that if you just install this Amplify agent on all the hosts that you want to monitor, basically where the Nginx is running, I think they meant hosts as the computers and also as the computers which are running specifically Nginx and not just simply computers, because then I don't know if you'll see anything meaningful, because so it looks like it can collect metrics for the OS, yes, but yeah, it's mainly for the Nginx and Nginx Plus, and there's also some MySQL and PHP FPM stuff. So let's look at what that is. So once you install this agent, it will automatically begin sending metrics apparently, so you can expect to see real-time metrics in the Nginx Amplify web interface within about a minute. So there's no need to manually add or configure anything in the web interface after installing. So when Amplify agent is started, the metrics and metadata are automatically reported to the Amplify backend and visualized in the web interface. So identifies this, running this with a unique configuration no longer in use. It must be manually deleted in the web interface. The remove object button can be found in the metadata viewer pop-up. See the user interface documentation. Cool. So here, when you look at PHP FPM, monitor PHP and should run in the same process environment as PHP and will be able to PHP. Cool. So I mean, I have not tried this out, so I don't know much, but looks like it can get some metrics around PHP FPM and also SQL, so MySQL metrics. So and there's also OS metrics, I think. So system like disk free, disk total, and all that. And basically the overview is here. So Nginx metrics, you can actually see it's over here, accepted and all that, and status codes, different status codes, and methods, status codes, protocol versions. Okay. So status codes and methods, and then protocol versions, additional Nginx metrics. So request bytes send and all that, and some plus metrics, so server zone, upstream server zone, and all that. Cool. So in other metrics you can find your MySQL metrics in PHP FPM. So looks like it will give some say global connections, global questions. I don't know what that means. Maybe the queries, I think the statements done. select, insert, update, delete, writes and all that. Okay, so there's a lot of data over here. So let's close this up, and for that I'll just look at what are the different kinds of metrics it provides. Accepted, current, max, length, active, total, max active, okay. Slow requests. Cool. So with that, that is the overview, right? Just a moment. Metrics. I think using and okay. So we did notice what is the metadata, metrics and metadata part. Okay, this is what it is. So we noticed the OS metrics and all that. So let's leave that. User interface, I think it's probably straightforward. Analyzer and account settings. So overview looks like this. It's a nice web page. So health score, successful request time, 95th percentile. So 95th percentile is there. So 95th percentile, and then traffic, how much, so network traffic, the bandwidth, 5 6 errors in the last 1 hour, 4 hours, 1 day, 2 days, and then 1 week and all. So AHS, so application health score, there is a formula for that, and then agent availability is also part of it, and then low threshold for satisfying requests, high threshold for partially satisfying requests and all. And so yeah, I mean it's a pretty good one. So when you look at the overview, so the graphs and other stuff is the next one. So graphs, so you can actually see graphs like this. I think NGINX connections, I think we can just close this, and you can look at NGINX connections, requests, current connections, requests, current requests and all. So host name or alias for the selected system properties, list of tags. Cool. Okay, so with that, so inventory, selecting this, and it gives an overview of the systems that are being monitored. So okay, so it gives you all the whole overview in the inventory, and then the dashboards. So you can create dashboards, I think, on your own. So you can create your own dashboards populated with highly customizable graphs of NGINX and system level metrics. So key NGINX metrics, connections and requests, NGINX performance metrics, NGINX and HTTP response codes, system metrics, CPU memory, load average, system metrics, network traffic. Okay. So something about caching and all. Anyways, so you have different kinds of stuff that you can add to the dashboard, and so this is one example. I think this is the metric for upstream response time. So metric filters, so you are just filtering by saying the request URI is matches this. So it's kind of like a regex, I think. So to define a graph, perform these steps, enter the graph title, pick one or more metrics. After the metrics is selected, you can see the systems for which the metric has been observed. Select one or multiple systems. Here you can also use tags to specify the systems. When aggregating across multiple systems, select either sum or average as the aggregation function and all. So last but not least, this filter functionality is also available for NGINX metrics collected from the log files. If you select add metric filter, you can add multiple criteria to define specific metric dimensions. In the example above, you are matching the NGINX upstream response time against the API feed reports URI. You can also build other filters, for example, displaying metric NGINX HTTP status 2xx for the response with the status code 201. And then save it and you're good to go. So because NGINX Amplify is not a SAS log analyzer, the additional slicing for metric dimensions is implemented. So I don't know what that means. It's not a SAS log analyzer. The additional slicing for metric dimensions is implemented inside NGINX Amplify agent. NGINX Amplify agent can parse the NGINX access logs on the fly and extract all the necessary metrics without sending the raw log entries elsewhere. So basically the analysis and the whole processing of the logs from which the data comes up is done in the agent itself, and it's not sent to a remote server, I think. So moreover, the NGINX Amplify agent understands custom log formats automatically and will start looking for various newly defined metric dimensions following a particular log format specification. So essentially, NGINX Amplify agent performs a combination of real-time log analytics and standard metrics collection. For example, metrics from stub status module, and then it does only the real-time log processing and always on the same host where it is running. So this is mentioned here. You can also see this in the code. I'll show this that it does log processing of sorts in the case of at least NGINX, I believe. So metric filters can be really powerful. By using the filters and creating additional metric dimensions, it is possible to build highly granular and informative graphs. And to enable NGINX Amplify agent to slice the metrics, you must add the corresponding log variables to the active NGINX log format. Please see the additional NGINX metrics section below. And metric filters are available only for the metrics generated from the log files. For other metrics, some additional modifiers can be set when editing a graph. So for NGINX Plus, it is possible to specify the status API zones to build more detailed visualizations. While editing the dashboard, you can also use additional features like clone to streamline the workflow. Okay, so that is that. You look at the analyzer and the alerts and account settings. So this is the additional metrics, the NGINX metrics, so upstream metrics and stuff, I guess. So you can actually see this. Okay, so we close this up and we look at the analyzer. So here, so it says it parses NGINX configuration files and transmits them to the backend component for further analysis. So it offers configuration recommendations to help improve the performance. That's great. Reliability and security of your applications. With well thought out and detailed recommendations, you'll know exactly where the problem is and why is it a problem, and how to fix it. Switch to analyzer and select a particular system on the left to see the associated report. If there are no NGINX instances on a system, there will be no report. So you'll see basic information like version information, release date, branch, latest version in the branch, path to the NGINX config files, whether the parser failed or not, and the results of NGINX-D, last modified information, third-party modules found, breakdown of the key configuration elements, breakdown of IPv4, IPv6 usage, security, virtual servers, SSL, static analysis, and all. So to parse SSL certificate metadata, it uses SSL, so standard open SSL functions. SSL certificates are parsed and analyzed only when the corresponding settings are turned on. So SSL certificates analysis is off by default. Okay, so it looks like there is some settings for it. So, and then static analysis will only include information about specific issues with the NGINX configuration if those are found in your NGINX setup. So in the future, analysis page will also include dynamic analysis, effectively linking the observed NGINX behavior to its configuration. For example, when it makes sense to increase or decrease certain parameters like proxy buffer, etc. Cool. So you can actually see the static analysis and security advisories and all. So that's the analyzer. Let's look at the alerts and then finally the account settings. So by the way, this is the NGINX Lua module. Okay. Cool. So the alerts page describes the configuration of the alert rules. Basically, the rules you define to say that when this rule is true, or when this rule is evaluating to a true value, or like when the rule is the conditions of this rule are alarming or ringing or buzzing, give me an alert. When these conditions are true, give me an alert, something like that. So these are alert rules. So these are it describes the configuration of the alert rules used to notify you of any anomalies in the behavior of your systems. So alerts are based on setting a rule to monitor a particular metric. Alert rules allow the users to specify the metric, the trigger condition, and the threshold and the email for notifications. So which email to send to the notifications, or something like pager if you want pagers, but I don't know if that is there here, or Slack messages and all. So the way alert rules work is the following. So incoming metric updates are being continuously monitored against the set of rules. If there's a rule for a metric, the new metric update is checked against the threshold. If the threshold is met, an alert notification is generated and the rule will continue to be monitored. If subsequent metric updates show that the metric no longer violates the threshold for the configured period, the alert is cleared. So it's like an automatic clearing of alerts, but by default there's no filtering by host. If a specific alert should only be raised for a particular system, you should specify the host names or tags when configuring the alert. Currently, metrics can be aggregated across all systems. Instead, any system can't be aggregated across all systems. Instead, any system will match a particular rule unless the host is specified. There is one special rule which is about amplify.agent status metric. This metric reflects the state of the NGINX amplify agent and hence the state of the system as seen by amplify. You can only configure a 2-minute interval and only 0 as the threshold for amplify agent status. So you shouldn't see consecutive notifications about the same alert repeatedly. Instead, there will be digest information sent out every 60 minutes describing which alerts were generated and which ones are cleared. Gauges are averaged over the interval configured in the rule. Counters are summed up. So currently this is not user configurable, and these are the only reduce functions or aggregate functions available for the configuring metric thresholds. Emails are sent using AWS SES. Make sure your mail relay accepts their traffic. So also make sure to verify the specified email and check the verification status in the account menu. Cool. So those are some stuff around alerts and account settings, limits, user roles, and notifications. So you get notifications through emails, looks like that, and then you also have Slack integration, looks like that, and then what else? That's it, I think. So you can actually see all this mentioned here. The thing is about installing and configuring, you can actually see stuff around it over here. So you install the agent, how to install it. So this agent is actually present as an open source software. So you can go to it and check it out. So this is present under NGINX Amplify agent, right? So you can actually see what this does. So look at the tools. This is a parser and all. Builders, one moment, and config parser and all, and then the log etc. This is pretty slow actually. So let me open this up so that we can actually see this. So if you go to etc and check config, log rotate, config default. So okay, this is going to take some time, but in the meantime we can actually open this up. You can see the configuration, testing, credentials, API key, hostname and all, and user, proxies and MySQL stuff, username, password, extensions, PHP, FPM, MySQL and all, and the loggers, formatters, logger root, handler root and all. And this is for development, and this is the default. And log rotate, init d and check config. So let me see. So this is the log rotate configuration for the Amplify agents logs. So and then this is the init.d for the daemon, I think. So path is this, description name, so yeah, and configuration file is it. So and then the next conf, and then finally how to start, do debug and all. So I think for start it is status of process, it's checking do start, and then for stop it's do stop, status, config test, debug, restart. Okay. So restart, I think they do stop and then they do do start. Cool. So that is that. And for check config, not sure what this is. I think sounds like some config checking thing. So how do you check the config? So starts config file PID and start, stop, restart, config test, debug, and it says start, stop, restart, config test, and cool. So yeah, I mean, looks like this is for some config checking stuff. And oops, let me open that up. So here, if we go to amplify and also look at the tools packages log, I think we're good. Okay, this has gone opened up. Great. So let me close this. I don't think this is going to open up anytime soon, so I'm just going to go ahead and open up this over here so that we can actually check it out. So in Amplify, you can actually see that it has agent ext and then init file. So here you can actually see some names and all, author and whatnot. So ext, let me leave it. This one you can see agent, collectors and whatnot, supervisor. Okay, so I think this is kind of like starts dedicated threads for each manager. So I think this is kind of like a thing that supervises stuff probably and runs the agent. Okay. Agent. Yeah, so agent is running in debug mode. Problem with root object identification, agent stopping. Asks cloud for config, object talk to cloud, applies gather data to objects in agent configuration. Okay, so looks like it runs the agent, it supervises the agent itself. This, I believe, is the agent itself. So there is some configuration, process ID, foreground log, and agent startup procedure, reads options, sets the environment, does the other good things. Okay, cool. So I think there must be a start. Yes, so start, and yeah, I mean, it just starts it and we are good to go. So action is equal to this, then it just starts it, I think. Test configuration and environment, and then okay, cool. Supervisor, foreground. Okay, so apart from these things, you can actually see so init by singleton. Okay, you can actually see collectors over here in the agent. You can actually see in collectors you have abstract. This abstract data collector runs in a thread and collects this. So green let exit. Okay, helper functions for sending 0 values and no data is found. Collect data, sleep, stop if the object is stopped. Okay. So I'm not sure what this is exactly doing. Abstract. Nothing much here. For collectors in NGINX, this is plus, NGINX plus, and then system metrics, I think this one. In NGINX, if you look at init or access log, you can actually see over here, it says abstract and all, abstract character and all, and you can actually see here NGINX access log parser. So we are actually getting the access log parser, which is part of this NGINX log access in objects. So I'm guessing this is part of this objects and then NGINX log access. Yeah, so you can actually see amplify, agent, objects, NGINX log access. From here they're getting this log parser, and they use that to actually parse the logs, I believe. So let me see where it is being used. So it's being used here and given the log format. So it's a pretty long file, 500, nearly 500 lines. So you can actually see it says a log. Basically, I think it's access log. So you can actually see the method head, get, post. These are counters to get idea of like what is the request method, and then the response status, and then the server protocol being used, HTTP version. Is it V2, V1, and all, and then uh, you know bytes sent in terms of request, and then upstream status and all, and then cache status and all, and then valid HTTP methods and all that, and finally they use the parser, and I think they say raw format and then count, and they parse the lines, they use the parsed and do stuff. It says collect and then parse match filters. So that's what happens here. And then let me go back here. So after this, I wonder what else happens here. Basically, these are to get the data, I think, request time and all. So from the thing, so upstreams, so they basically do parsing only of access logs, and you can actually see how they parse the things. So common variables, request, body bytes sent and all. So yep, it's just a 200 line thing. So yeah, and after that you can actually see how it parses the config file, I think. So so it looks for the config file where parses the configuration file. I wonder what they use to parse it. Parse config tree, full parse. So I don't know where this config came from. Object.config, object config. I think there is a thing over here. I wonder if there is like error log levels, NGINX config parse, is it? Yeah, there's a config parser, and then so objects NGINX config, and then parser. So objects NGINX config parser, basically to parse the NGINX configuration file. So basically they get the file system info and then get line and parse it. Scan path pattern and parse, and yep. So something to check out, but basically they're just doing some config parsing here, and finally over here error log parsing apart from access log parsing. So which they have here. So yeah, I mean here I think it says import error log levels, error log. Okay, yeah, these things basically. Anyways, and then there is meta. So there are some metadata stuff, and then metrics. I wonder what this is exactly. It says memory info and whatnot. Anyways. And then finally there is NGINX Plus, where you get NGINX Plus related stuff, which you get from the API, HTTP API module. So I think it's that, and then there is status and all, and then there is abstract stuff. Utility for HTTP upstream, server zone, stream server zone, stream upstream, and for status. So that is that. And then for system metrics, I think there is stuff like memory, virtual memory, swap CPU, disk. So that is that. Let's close this up. So we have that. So that is under collectors. And then you have common stuff going on over here, and then something data related things, event D, config D, meta D, stats D, managers, and then objects. Here is where we got the whole Nginx stuff, config and stuff, log, access log and stuff. And then for Nginx Plus it's different, for system it's different, the objects that you needed, and then the pipelines and like syslog and all, file tanks, I wonder what that is, but yep. And then extensions like MySQL and PHP, FPM stuff. So anything related to that basically. Collectors, managers, objects, util, FPM status, FCGI, and parser and all. MySQL, collectors, and objects and stuff. Cool. So we can actually use this and send data, but we should have a backend built for this, which can actually receive the data. And I wonder what is the license for this. The license is just copyright. I think NGINX Inc. The license I believe is BSD2 clause license. So yeah, and so yeah, you can use this. And you can send data to your backend, which can understand this data, or else it doesn't make sense. So you can install this, update this, and all. So install script manually and using package managers like RPM and all of that. Red Hat package manager, and creating the config file and all, starting and stopping, updating. Again, some similar stuff. So and then configuring, uninstall, using it with Docker and all. So uninstall, and then metadata and metrics collection. So detecting and monitoring Nginx instances. So this one we got it already, and then this, and then sub status is something we spoke about, and then access log and error log. So yeah, I mean, to do that, it should be able to read the logs, and it will read the logs, and it will parse it. And then syslog for metric collection, troubleshooting, configuration analysis, and other stuff. So other things I think we have already noticed. I'm not going to go into frequently asked questions. You can go into it. I won't be going into it. So other Nginx amplify resources, and okay. So source code, yeah, I mean here they mentioned that you can find it here. So and the package and install script and everything. Cool. So that was the amplify, which you can use probably to monitor your Nginx, right? And there are a lot of tutorials on this. So there is, for example, cloud con and all something, and then this, of course, we just saw. And what else? If I just say Nginx Prometheus, you'll notice still the same old thing coming up, and you'll actually notice this one coming up though. I think I already showed you this. Basically, this is a library to be used to create Prometheus metrics for yourself for Nginx. So this is based on the Lua thing which I spoke about, OpenResty Lua. Either you need to have OpenResty, the Lua Nginx module. You have to have OpenResty where this module is enabled by default, or you should have that module where it's separately enabled. Like you'll need the Nginx Lua module, or you can either use that like base server like OpenResty which already has it enabled, or a regular Nginx server with this module enabled. For example, Debian, you can simply install this thing and So you have this, you can create counters and all that. So I think I spoke about this. So this is based on Lua, and there are a lot of Nginx Lua modules out there. Nginx Lua plugins, you could say, or modules. because Nginx modules are written using C++, C++. To write it in Lua, you need to have this Nginx Lua thing. And by the way, there's this popular gateway called API gateway called Kong, which is built using Nginx, using OpenResty basically using Nginx and using Lua. So you can actually see fully Lua coded stuff over here, and all its modules and like plugins are built using Lua. So you can actually see that. And so that is one library that you can actually see. And there are some more things you can actually notice over here. So let me actually reload my history and do a Nginx. So today I actually went through a lot of Nginx stuff. So let me go through this just a moment. Okay, so interesting that let me actually just put Nginx here and open up anything that I haven't opened up yet. I have already opened up Nginx Amplify Agent and all. Let me close these Amplify Agent stuff and this Kong and all. So Prometheus exporter, yes, I've opened it up already. And what about this? So there is this exporter that one of my friends noticed called Nginx log exporter for Prometheus. So basically it exports metrics from the Nginx access log files. Basically what Amplify is doing from the access log is taking it up. And so you can actually see collected metrics. So these are the metrics here. Total responses, right? Amount of process history, requests or responses, size bytes, upstream time seconds and all. So this is written in Golang, and this is an exporter, and I think it should have access to the log file, or else I don't think this can read it. So log, let me actually look for it. 1 minute. Log sources. So currently the exporter supports reading the log data from files or syslog. So ideally when you run it in a container environment and if you have files, it's tricky. If it's standard output, great. This reads from files apparently, so we'll have to be careful about this. And so this is one thing that's out there. So basically it's called Prometheus-Nginx log-exporter. So by this person called Martin Helmich. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name right, but that's what I could pronounce, unfortunately. And do they have any other Nginx stuff? No. So yeah, this is a popular thing that they mentioned in their thing. And then this person, I think had something, but he doesn't have it anymore, like some project. Like my friend found a URL from Cursor ID. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's right or wrong. Also, this Martin Helmich, they have a website for their thing, right? So you can actually see, not here. Interesting. Usage, credits. Okay. Tail, guns. I think these are credits. The interesting thing is, I think there is a website, web blog by this person for this thing, right? By Martin Helmich, right? And this came up when I was checking out something else. I'll show you. Before that, there's also something called Nginx monitoring extension by App Dynamic. So just a minute. So this is written in Java. It's a web server. Prerequisites before that. So this is an extension apparently. I wonder what this is used for. Splunk observability portfolio. Okay. So I think this also requires you to have stuff status module or HTTP API module, and I think it runs based on that. And then so you can check this out, martinhelmig.de, martin-helmig.de, monitoring NGINX. So I'll close these. Go package for reading from continuously updated files. Interesting. There are some interesting projects. NGINX access log parser for Golang. Interesting. So client Golang, this is the Prometheus official thing, and HashiCorp configuration language thing. So here we can look at this also, and then how to collect metrics. And someone had mentioned about I'm going to open up a lot of things now. Yeah, I think that's it. So basically, the other things that I noticed were something like this: NGINX server metrics, real-time metrics, similar to top. So this is NGINX top. So you just run this and you get data like this, right? So it parses your NGINX access log and outputs useful top-like metrics for your NGINX server, so you can tell what is happening with your server in real time. So it's designed to run in a short period of time, just like the top command for troubleshooting and monitoring your NGINX server at the moment. If you need a long-running monitoring process or storing your web server stats in external monitoring or graphing system, you can try Lua meter. So this is something that I've been noticing a lot, Lua meter, but currently I don't think this exists. Some random website opens up for luameter.com. I think this was an old thing where people used to use like send data here and use the data from here, like Lua meter. And there's this thing by Datadog about how to collect metrics, and this one talks about how you can actually collect metrics. Like for NGINX, what are the metrics that you have? For NGINX Plus, what do you have? And then from NGINX logs, what do you have? So they basically mix up the NGINX open source thing and the NGINX logs thing and get it together. So and use that, and they say that their Datadog agent can actually get it. So this post is part 2 of a 3-part series of NGINX monitoring. Part 1 explores the key metrics available in NGINX. Part 3 details how to monitor NGINX with Datadog. So this is part 1. So let's look at part 1 and then part 3. Part 2 I believe is just there. So key NGINX metrics, you can actually check it out. This is by Datadog, so it talks about the 7 metrics that we looked at, waiting, reading, writing and all, and NGINX Plus metrics, and what is out there, and what else. I think this is part 3. This is part 1, part 3. With Datadog, how can you do things? So this is how to monitor NGINX, right? Yeah. So you can actually check out what to do for the configuration, and I think the Datadog agent basically parses the config file and also the access log and say error log files to get some data, and you can actually see how things work over here. So this is that. So you can actually check out this whole thing, log format and everything, and what happens here. So the next thing is, I noticed someone mention about how to get have an exporter. So I'm sure I've gotten multiple things wrong here, either flat out wrong, anti-patterns, or just suboptimal. I'm new to Prometheus, Grafana and MTail, so please feel free to share corrections or suggestions. So basically this person found out that some are tying into internal NGINX stats in like the official NGINX exporter, right? Others are custom applications that tail or parse the NGINX access logs in order to tail and parse, I think. So in order to generate more detailed or custom stats, example this Martin Helmix thing. And I think the GitHub should be mentioned here. Yeah, so this is the GitHub, right? So this is something we saw in the next log exporter Prometheus. And what this person says is this: the problem with the first type is that you are limited to the Nginx internal stats, which is just the stub status model. Problem with the second is that you are limited in customization due to the needs of the author being specific. Like the author has some specific needs, right? And if you are happy with the stats the author decided on, great. For instance, with Martin Helmig's custom exporter, the docs mention working with about 3 Nginx variables in access logs. I think there are many more standard ones that the exporter expects, but the documentation wasn't clear to me. So including or customizing other metrics or labels does not seem to be possible with that exporter. So basically the customization, addition basically, including more metrics or labels, it's not possible is what this person thinks, or it's a bit harder. Since using any exporter means deploying a binary, setting up a systemd service to process manage the binary and doing a bit of configuration, I decided to just use mtail for this. Mtail I think is a open source software by Google, so you can actually read through what mtail is by looking at the language doc and what mtail is over here. So mtail docs, language docs, this is the language reference. So mtail is designed to tail log files and apply regular expressions to new log lines to extract data. The language naturally follows this pattern action style. So mtail is provided by Google, and I extract internal monitoring data from application logs for collection in a time series database. And it's written completely in Golang. So yeah, and I think it's been there for a long time, and I can see a lot of comments. So now, just a moment. So this person uses that and runs things. So they actually use, they put a Nginx configuration file, and then they put this mtail file that they wanted to use, and the service to run the mtail binary, and they have a Grafana to get all the data. I think the data goes to, I'm not sure where it goes to, let me see. Address, I think it gets the data directly from mtail, can it? Mtail. So thanks, I found one typo, for instance, when, thank you for this good example. I've built upon this. Mainly I've removed some metrics and used histograms for analysis. So looks like some people have done something on top of this. So this person has done something cool. So Matt Probert, right? So Nginx, anyways, here nothing around Nginx, but anyway, so monitoring Nginx with mtail. So yep, and they have the open metrics format, right? I think open metrics, I'm not sure, like, okay, this is the Prometheus open metrics format. So and then you have the Prometheus exporter and stuff being mentioned here. So this person talks about how they have done this using mtail. So this is by Petros.info, right? This is a 2023 post, pretty old one. And so yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. And they review, so they ask you to run mtail and run the help and check out the command line parameters. And if Nginx are both running but nothing is showing up, you probably have permissions problem on the log file and all. And yep, so you can use mtail and check out the log files and parse it and get the Nginx data. There's one more, something called extended Nginx status and metrics. It's called Nginx metrics. It comes forked from this. Let's check this out. Okay, it's discontinued, so they're saying go here. So Bankiru, I think it's a Bankiru, I think it's a bank website, I'm not sure. Log into your account, is it a bank? Yeah, it's a bank. I think it's a bank, Russian thing, I guess. It's not running this thing anymore, but it's basically Nginx out of the box not the most complete status page provided by the status module. That is true. Just 7 metrics, so no. It is worth noting that in Nginx Plus, this module provides more information, but using Lua module can get much more information. This is the purpose of Nginx metrics. Metrics entirely written in Lua, so that's Lua. So this person has actually continued it, I think. So this is the thing, and again your Lua Nginx module has to be installed, and then you can run this, and you'll have the whole thing. So that is that. And then there is the Nginx agent itself, which provides an administrative entry point to remotely manage, configure, and correct metrics and events from Nginx instances. So this is an agent, so we can actually try this out. Is now available. So the documentation for this section is for this, and for visit Nginx 1 console documentation. So I think there is 3.0 now. This documentation is for 2.0. And for 3.0, I think this is the one. So configure, metrics, support, community, and all. So export Nginx instance metrics, agent logs, open source repo. So this is the open source repo. So I don't know what is Nginx 1 console looks like its thing. You have package files. So this is the Nginx agent releases page, so you can actually see that agent thing. So and containers run container configuration overview. So log level, and then the path to output log to messages, path to output log messages to, and log. Okay, so allowed directories, features, command line auth token and all. Okay, so agent change log, automate with Nginx API. Okay, so you can check this out. So it looks like this is written using Golang, and it's a companion daemon for your Nginx open source and Nginx Plus. So looks like this can run with Nginx open source also. Great. So remote management of Nginx configurations, collection and reporting of the real-time Nginx performance and operating system metrics. So you have management and reporting of collection and reporting of real-time Nginx performance and metrics. So you can check this out. And the other thing that I noticed was Nginx-Prometheus, which is turning Nginx logs into Prometheus metrics again. So Nginx log parser and Prometheus exporter. So this is written in Golang, and it basically, I think, parses incoming syslog messages from Nginx sent over UDP and converts them into Prometheus metrics exported through the built-in HTTP server. So that's this. There's also a Grafana dashboard apparently. So yeah, and finally you can actually see some mention of Lua meter, which is something that I'm not able to find, but yeah, Lua meter is something that used to be there, I think, not anymore. I was trying to find it, couldn't find much around it. So you can actually see Lua meter being mentioned here is an end time. So this, I don't think this is related to the luameter.com, but yeah, and then Lua meter demo and stuff. So someone was running this, so they put the gist, and then there is this thing called there's a Lua plugin. There's this thing called Nginx Metrics Graphite. This is there in microbase.de, or it's there in GitHub also. This one is actually a mirror of this one. So these two are the same. So CMUR2 is the person who has it, Christian Nicolai. So you can actually see the Nginx thing over here. So yeah. So basically it's a Lua plugin, and for the Nginx web server that automatically collects the metrics NGINX metrics, several important NGINX metrics, and then sends it to Graphite. So it doesn't export it and provide it at an endpoint for Prometheus as something to scrape. Instead, it submits to Graphite. So if you have Graphite, you could use it. So there is mention of other stuff over here. The NGINX Lua Prometheus, Lua Meter are also proprietary solutions, basically Lua Meter and NGINX Plus, and then other stuff. So you can actually try this out if you want. And then I think everything else I've already mentioned. I basically found out by doing NGINX metrics GitHub and found out the agent, the metric library, the NGINX metrics, how to collect NGINX metrics, Martin Helmich thing, and MTail thing, and everything, right? So this is actually the NGINX Lua thing. So this is actually similar to OpenResty, but not OpenResty, but it's similar. So they say, why do you have to use this and not OpenResty? They have some differences between OpenResty and this. They provide the latest version over here, and it talks about how it supports this thing called Alma Linux, and so it has latest and Alma Linux support, but doesn't have CentOS or Windows support, which OpenResty has. But it also has Fedora support, which OpenResty doesn't. So if you want to use OpenResty's NGINX Lua or this NGINX Lua, you can use it. You can actually find out this Lua over here. Maybe just a moment. Let me pull this out. Yeah, so this is the one. It's Fabio. So it's Fabio Cicercia, so this person. So they have hosted it, and you can actually see it being mentioned. Looks like there's an awesome NGINX thing. So anything regarding metrics, I think you'll be able to find it. Converts NGINX metrics exposed by the API model to a. Looks like there is a NJS thing. Looks like it's not available anymore. Anyways, anything else? Yep, NGINX top and monitoring NGINX on Kubernetes. There's a blog by Sysdig, and yep, that's it. So Lua stuff, you'll notice it, I think, over here. Lua modules. Yeah, so I think this one is called NGINX-Lua. NGINX-Lua. So yeah. So this is the Fabio's thing, and I think OpenResty is basically this well-known distribution of NGINX, which is like a version of NGINX. So based on NGINX and Lua, of course. So you can actually find people behind this, and this guy is the creator of that, I think. So creator of OpenResty, founder and CEO of OpenResty Inc. So yeah, that's the first name over here you can actually see, and so that is awesome NGINX. So Lua stuff. So you can actually do embeddable scripting languages. You can do JavaScript, Perl, M, Ruby, Clojure, PHP, Wasm, and all. And Lua is the main thing. I think it's popular. So these are the C modules, and you can find a lot of them. And I think you can find out how to write NGINX modules, module development, basically by just looking at this. I think this is one example. So Emila's Guide to NGINX Module Development. This is from 2017, and there is actually a Stack Overflow question which also refers to this only, Evan Miller, right? And the NGINX Development Kit, which is this, and this guide, and this tutorial, and video tutorial. So this is the development kit, and this tutorial, we have seen this, and then this tutorial, and then this person who basically created, right? So the modules, agents, this person is this. So his tutorial is over here, and video tutorial, I think is not showing up here, so I don't think it's available, but yeah. So the C modules, you can find it out easily. And yeah, I mean, there are a lot of like Postgres and whatnot over here. So upstream module that allows engineers to communicate directly with Postgres instance and all. There is one for Redis, I think. So Redis to Nginx module, right? So yeah. So then I noticed skywalking, where I noticed this thing where it said you can monitor Nginx with skywalking, and I was wondering what is skywalking. They were mentioning the Nginx Lua Prometheus by this person that I just showed, Anton Tolkanov. So they use this and Lua Nginx module and stuff, and basically skywalking is Apache skywalking, which is actually some APM, application performance monitoring tool for distributed systems. So yeah, and this one Nginx Lua stuff again, Fabio's thing, skywalking stuff again. And yep, so this is what I noticed, and I noticed Nginx Matrix Lua skywalking. Everything else you might have already noticed these. So yeah, and OpenResty and whatnot. So you can check these out. See Nginx Lua Prometheus thing, and then you can probably get this. I think it's the same. Oh no, it's not the same. I think you should just click download and just get it. Anyways, and then unofficial stuff, I was looking for it and nothing much came up. So yeah, they talk about how you can get from these metrics and all this generally, and yeah. So you can read more online, and yep. So just a moment. So that's all I had in this one. This one we spoke about it, the graphite thing. So that's all I had for this video, talking about the different ways and different things around the Nginx monitoring. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.